"What do you think, girls?" I called to my best friends, Bess Marvin and George Fane. "Should we drive with the top up or down?" Bess twisted to look back at George, who was sitting in the back seat of the white convertible we'd just rented from Charleston International Airport. "That's a silly question, Nancy," George said. "It's 80 degrees, the sun is shining, and we're on vacation. Put the top down." I grinned and pushed a button on the dashboard to lower the car's roof. The South Carolina sun was a welcome change from the stormy late summer weather back home in River Heights. "It's perfect weather for a wedding," Bess exclaimed, taking a pair of tortoise-shell sunglasses out of her purse. "It certainly was nice of Charlotte to give you +2 for the wedding, Bess," I said, pulling onto the main road toward town and enjoying the wind blowing through my hair. "Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to have this little getaway together." Bess's cousin Charlotte was getting married in 2 days, and she had invited Bess to be one of her bridesmaids. Because Charlotte was marrying a handsome news anchor, the wedding was all over the news and the internet. Everyone was calling it the wedding of the year. George and I were delighted to come along. Maybe we'd even be able to squeeze in a little time on the beach. "I can't wait for you guys to meet Charlotte," Bess said. "The girl is so organized, I bet she's got the entire wedding planned down to the millisecond. The bridesmaid dresses are the perfect warm peach color for this time of year, don't you think?" I could almost hear George rolling her eyes from the back seat. "What does it matter? It could be lime green or neon orange. Boys would still be falling over themselves to talk to you." "Lime green?" Bess exclaimed in horror. "Ugh!" "Well, Charlotte isn't exactly a fashion bug, but at least she picked something more suitable than that." I shook my head and smiled. Bess and George may be cousins, but they couldn't be more different. I glanced over at Bess, who looked like an old-fashioned movie star, with her dark sunglasses on and her blonde hair tucked neatly back into a silk scarf. Bess had been gushing with excitement about this wedding ever since she got the invitation a couple of months ago. Besides all the hype, both families were fairly wealthy, so it was bound to be quite the elegant affair. And more than that, Bess simply loved the romance of it. The flowers, the dresses, the music, everything. George, on the other hand, couldn't have been less interested in the idea of attending a wedding. Charlotte was from the other side of Bess's family, so George wouldn't know anyone there. Even so, she was all too happy to travel to a new city and check out the sights. Wedding or no wedding, it was an excuse for an adventure. Peeking in the rearview mirror, I spied George taking pictures of the passing landmarks with her smartphone, her short black hair flying in the breeze. She was dressed in jeans and a thrift store t-shirt, the official George Fane uniform for everyday comfort. "Check it out!" George called suddenly. "It's Rainbow Row!" I slowed the car as we drove up to a line of beautiful row houses, painted in pastel colors. "Ooh, look at that powder blue one," Bess cooed. "And there's a pink one, too." George madly snapped photos until we'd passed the last house when I stepped back on the gas. "I was hoping we'd get to see that," she said excitedly. "Did you guys know that Charleston is the oldest city in South Carolina? People often call it the Holy City because of how many churches there are here." "I guess that makes it a really good place for a wedding," I said, stopping at a red light. "And because it has such a long history," George added, "it's famous for having a lot of ghosts. Even the place where we're staying is supposedly haunted."